You are on the couch with her. The conversation flowed all night long. The atmosphere is different. You laugh together. She leans into you. Her gaze lingers a second longer than it should. Everything indicates that something might happen. And then you feel it, that impulse, that desire to finally cross the line. But along with the desire comes something else. A voice in your head asking how to do this without ruining everything. How to take the next step without seeming invasive. How to ask for what you want without hearing a no that will destroy the moment and haunt you for weeks. The truth that no one tells you is simple and brutal. Most men are not rejected for what they desire. They are rejected for the crude, anxious, and completely wrong way. They try to communicate this desire. They turn a moment of sexual tension into a request for permission. They turn attraction into awkwardness. And the worst part, they think they were rejected because she wasn't interested, when in reality, they were rejected because they broke the spell they helped build themselves. Robert Greene, in the book The Art of Seduction, defines seduction as a process where the other person needs to feel that the decision was theirs, not yours, hers. When you verbalize the intention in a direct and raw way, you steal that power of choice. You force a rational response in a moment that should be purely emotional. And the female brain, faced with this pressure, does what any defense system does when it feels cornered. It retreats. It closes up. It says, no, what you're going to learn in the next few minutes is not a cheap manipulation technique. It is a deep understanding of how female desire actually works, how it is built, how it manifests, and most importantly, how you can lead this process so that she herself eliminates the barriers between you, without you needing to beg, without you needing to ask, without running the risk of hearing a rejection that could have been avoided if you knew what you were about to learn. Intimacy is not asked for with words. It is conquered with a precise sequence of signals that disarm resistance before she even realizes she was resisting. And if you need to ask, if you need to verbalize the obvious, then you have already lost. Because the question itself reveals that you didn't understand the game, it reveals that you are still operating at the level of words when she's already responding with her whole body. Stay with me until the end, because what comes next will completely change how you understand the dynamic between man and woman in these decisive moments. Topic 1. The mechanism that makes her say no before you finish the sentence. Pay attention to what I'm going to tell you now, because this will explain 90% of the rejections you have already suffered. When a man decides he wants to advance physically with a woman, his natural instinct is to be direct, to speak, to ask, to make clear what he wants. This logic makes sense in the male head. After all, clear communication solves problems, right? Wrong. Completely wrong when the subject is attraction and female desire. What happens in her brain when you verbalize sexual intention before having built the emotional escalation is devastating to your chances. You instantly activate her defense system, not because she didn't want you, not because you are ugly or uninteresting, but because you put her in a position where she needs to make a rational decision about something that should be instinctive. You turned a moment of tension and desire into a negotiation, and no woman wants to feel like she's negotiating sex. She wants to feel that she was swept away by the moment, that it happened, that it was inevitable. A study published in 2016 Inches, the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, by researchers at the University of Texas, revealed something every man should tattoo on his mind. Women evaluate proposals for intimacy through two simultaneous filters. The first is perceived risk. The second is partner value. When the proposal comes before the construction of value, when you ask without having conquered, the female brain does not process that as an opportunity. It processes it as a threat. As a man who is trying to take something from her, instead of creating something with her, the inversion that separates the men who are constantly rejected from the men, who seem to never hear a no, is subtle but absolute. The former try to convince. The latter create an environment where she begins to convince herself. Think about this for a second. Your job is not to argue why you should get together. Your job is to create an atmosphere so charged with tension that she herself starts rationalizing why it should happen. Calibrated touches, increasing proximity, pauses that say more than any sentence. The verbal request, if it even needs to exist, only appears when the answer is already written in her body language. The principle that governs all this is what I call emotional irreversibility. When a woman is already emotionally invested, when the tension has been built correctly, she herself begins to eliminate the barriers. She finds excuses to get closer. She touches you for no apparent reason. She creates opportunities for you to advance, because at this point, she already wants it to happen. She just needs you to lead the moment without breaking the magic with unnecessary words. Every interaction between you should work like a thermostat. You increase the temperature 1 degree at a time. Never abruptly, never obviously, until the resistance simply melts away, because there's nothing left to resist. She's already on your side. She's already decided. You just need to not ruin everything by asking permission for something she has already given you without needing words. Topic 2. The silent language that communicates intention without words. The biggest mistake you make is not in what you say. It is in what you don't do while you're too busy thinking about what you should say. While your mind searches for the perfect phrase, the perfect moment to verbalize your intention, your body remains static, neutral, harmless. And a harmless man does not awaken desire. He awakens friendship. He awakens comfort. But never that visceral tension that makes a woman want to be touched by you. Touch is the first language you need to master. Not the desperate touch of someone begging for contact. Not the accidental touch of someone afraid to seem too interested. The calibrated touch intentional that communicates presence and confidence without asking for anything in return. Psychologist Nicolas Gigan, from the University of Bronx-Sud in France, dedicated years to studying the impact of touch on social interactions. Between 2007 and 2010, he published a series of studies that demonstrated something powerful. Light and non-invasive touches on the arm or shoulder during a conversation increase female receptivity to subsequent requests by up to 20%. 20%. This means that the simple act of touching her arm while making a comment, of touching your shoulder to hers while you laugh together, is already preparing the ground for everything that comes later. Physical proximity works as a silent declaration of intention. Every conversation happens inside a bubble of personal space. The distance you maintain communicates exactly what you feel for her before you even open your mouth. When you're too far away, you're an acquaintance, a colleague, someone safe. When you start eliminating this distance centimeter by centimeter, you're saying something that words could never convey. I am interested in you. And every time she accepts this proximity without retreating, she's responding. I am interested too. This game of approach and retreat is the dance that builds sexual tension. You advance a little. Observe the reaction. If she stays, you advance more. If she moves away, you wait, retreat and try again later. No drama, no frustration. Like someone who understands that attraction is a process, not an event. Prolonged eye contact is perhaps the most underestimated weapon in the arsenal of seduction. In 1989, psychologist Joan Kellerman conducted an experiment that should be taught to every man. She put strangers to look into each other's eyes for just 2 minutes without saying anything, just looking. The result was that many participants reported intense feelings of connection and even attraction to people they had never seen before. 2 minutes of eye contact created more intimacy than hours of conversation would create. This happens because the prolonged gaze activates the release of phenolphthaleamine, the same neurotransmitter that floods the brain during the initial phase of falling in love. When you hold her gaze a second longer than would be comfortable, when you don't look away first, you're creating a chemical connection that she feels in her whole body without even understanding why. The pause loaded with silence is where the masters separate themselves from the amateurs. Most men are terrified of silence. They fill every second with words because the void seems uncomfortable. It seems like something is wrong, but silence is not the absence of communication. It is the most intense form of it. After a moment of connection, after an exchange of glances, after a shared laugh, stop. Don't say anything. Just look at her. Let the air between you get heavy. This vacuum you create forces her brain to fill the space with imagination. And what she imagines in this silence is always more powerful than anything you could have said. She starts to wonder what you're thinking. Starts to anticipate what might happen. Starts to wish you would do something. And when you finally move, it's not a surprise. It is a relief. It is what she was waiting for. Now, if you want to go beyond what I just taught you, If you want to master every nuance of this silent language with a precision that most men will never reach, I need to tell you about something I developed over years of studying behavioral psychology and testing in practice what really works. The Seducer's Blueprint is not just another generic course full of tips you find anywhere. It is a complete system that teaches you to read the signals she emits before she is even conscious of them. That shows you exactly how to escalate touch, proximity, and tension in a way that her resistance simply disappears. These are advanced techniques based on real psychology that you won't find anywhere else on the internet, because I refined each of them through direct experience and deep study of female behavior. The link is in the description. If you are tired of relying on luck and want to finally understand the mechanism behind female desire, this is the next step. Topic 3. The exact moment to act and how to never miss the timing again. You can do everything right. Build the tension. Master body language. Create that charged atmosphere where desire is palpable in the air, and still lose everything for a single reason. You didn't act at the right time. Either you acted too soon and seemed hasty, or you waited too long and the window closed. Timing in seduction is not a detail. It is the difference between being remembered as the man she desired and being forgotten as just another one who didn't know what to do when the moment came. The female body speaks a language that her mouth often contradicts. While she says she is tired or needs to leave, her body might be screaming the opposite. She touches her own hair repeatedly while talking to you. She bites her lower lip, almost imperceptibly. She finds excuses to lean on you, even when there is no apparent reason. She decreases the physical distance between you, without you having asked. She tilts her head slightly, exposing her neck. These are not random gestures. They are coded invitations that biology programmed into her over millions of years of evolution. Researcher David Given dedicated decades to studying the nonverbal communication of desire and cataloged more than 50 distinct signals that women emit when they are sexually interested. The man who ignores these signals, who keeps waiting for a verbal confirmation that will never arrive, misses windows of opportunity that rarely open twice. Female attraction is not constant. It works in waves. It rises and falls. It reaches peaks and then retreats. During an interaction, there is always a moment of maximum receptivity, a point where she is more open, more vulnerable, more ready for something to happen. This peak doesn't last forever. If you hesitate, if you get stuck in your own head calculating risks, the wave passes. The tension you built starts to dissipate. She starts to rationalize, to think of reasons for it not to happen. And when you finally build up the courage, the moment has already died. She has already gone back to safe mode. She has already rebuilt the barriers that were temporarily suspended. Before making any decisive move, there is a test that almost completely eliminates the risk of rejection. Experts call it the compliance test. It works like this. You make a smaller physical advance before trying the bigger advance. A touch on the waist during the conversation. A hand on her back while going through a door, bringing her closer by lightly holding her hand. If she accepts this contact and relaxes into it, the path is open. She is telling you yes with her body. If she tenses up, pulls away subtly, creates distance, she is telling you not yet. And this not yet is valuable information. You retrain without losing composure. Continue the interaction normally and try again later when the temperature rises again. This test eliminates humiliating verbal rejection because the answer comes through the body, not through words. You never have to hear a no because you learn to read the no before it is pronounced. When all the signals are aligned, when she has passed the compliance tests, when the tension is at the maximum point, the way you verbalize the transition makes all the difference. Most men get it wrong here because they turn the moment into a question. Want to go to my place? Can I kiss you? Do you want to hook up with me? These questions throw all the responsibility for the decision onto her shoulders. They force a rational answer. They create room for doubt and retreat. The man who understands the dynamic of desire does not ask. He leads. He states, "Come here. Let's get out of here. Come with me." These are phrases that assume the next step is natural and inevitable. It is not a request for permission. It is confident leadership of a process she has already emotionally accepted. The difference between being rejected and being desired often lies just in this. In who takes control of the moment, in who has the courage to lead without apologizing for wanting what he wants. Conclusion: what separates the man who asks from the man who conquers? Everything you have learned up to here can be summarized in a fundamental shift of mindset. The man who is constantly rejected operates in the world of words. He believes he needs to explain, justify, ask for authorization for every advance. The man who rarely hears a no operates in the world of presence. He understands that female desire does not respond to arguments. It responds to sensations. It responds to tension. It responds to the way she feels when she's near him. David Daw, in the book The Way of the Superior Man, wrote something that perfectly summarizes what differentiates these two types of men. He said that feminine energy constantly tests masculine energy to sense if it can trust and surrender. When you hesitate, when you ask for permission, when you demonstrate that you are not sure of what you're doing, you fail this test. She cannot surrender to a man who doesn't know how to lead. Not out of malice, not out of coldness, but because her biology demands a man who has direction, who has presence, who knows how to lead the moment without trembling. Let's recap the 3 keys you need to internalize. First, never verbalize the intention before building the tension. Words spoken too soon break the spell and activate her defense system. Second, master the body language of escalation. Calibrated touch, increasing proximity, sustained eye contact, pauses loaded with silence. Your body must communicate what your mouth doesn't need to say. Third, recognize the window of opportunity and act within it. Read the signal she emits. Test receptivity before advancing. And when everything is aligned, lead without asking. State lead. Assume that the next step is natural because you built the conditions for it to be. The truth that maybe you don't want to hear but need to is this: you weren't rejected the previous times because she didn't want you. You were rejected because you asked permission for something you should have conquered. Because you treated intimacy like a favor she could grant instead of a natural consequence of a man who knows how to create desire. Every no you heard was the result of a poorly managed process of words spoken at the wrong time of hesitation, where there should have been certainty of asking, where there should have been leadership. From now on, you have a choice. You can keep doing what you've always done, waiting for the perfect moment that never comes, calculating the right phrase that doesn't exist, asking and being refused. Or you can internalize what you learned here and start operating in a completely different way. Building tension instead of seeking permission. Reading her body instead of waiting for words. Leading the moment instead of reacting to it. If this content made sense to you, if you felt that finally someone explained what you always intuited but could never put into practice, then I have an invitation. The Seducer's Blueprint is the most complete system I have ever created to transform ordinary men into men who deeply understand how to approach women to create instant attraction. It's not superficial tips. It's not cheap tricks. It is a structured method based on years of study of behavioral psychology, neuroscience of attraction, and real experience. Inside, you will learn techniques that I cannot reveal in a public video, advanced strategies to create sexual tension from scratch, ways to escalate touch that make her resistance disappear naturally, how to read the subtlest signal she emits and act at the exact moment. This knowledge does not exist anywhere else on the internet because I developed each technique through real tests and constant refinement. The link is in the description. If you are ready to stop relying on luck and start understanding the real mechanism behind female attraction, just click. The decision of who you will be from now on is yours. I showed you the path. It is up to you to walk it. And with that, see you in the next video.